Good morning, everybody. Normally, I play music for the first 15 minutes that is by female artists. But today, I chose songs by men on purpose. All of my song choices are really purposeful. But lately, I've been thinking about balancing feminine and masculine. And I know when I first started taking the lead on these meetings, it was and still is important for me to amplify the feminine voice because it's been marginalized and suppressed for centuries. But really, balance is the goal. And I really think it's important to acknowledge the men on this meeting and in this group who are also doing the work. And going against this hyper masculine culture that's sort of promoted right now and has been. I think it's really essential to have both. And so I'm bringing both in today and always. And malignant patriarchy hurts all of us, not just women. So I felt it was important to say that. And then I want to tell you that I have two poems and a story for you today. The first poem is in long form. It's a version of the hero's journey. It's called Descent, Your Guide to the Underworld by Maud Kelly and Megan McGinley. Maud Kelly is a cancer survivor, and this story was prompted by her own journey. And so I'm going to read this to you. Sometimes you have to go to the underworld. You don't want to go, but you have to. Why? Because that is part of being in the world. What will happen? Well, a few things. First, a herald will arrive from the underworld to inform you that you've been called. They will be sympathetic and strong, but they will insist. You must go down. Then someone else will carry you there, in a boat traditionally, on a gurney, in a van, by air, etc. When you get there, the underworld keepers will take everything you brought with you. They may do this slowly or all at once. Then there will be a sound. It's your body hitting stone. No one can hear you. Your cry is in a new language. It does not translate. You are alone. You will experience many emotions. You will be kept in the underworld for, well, that's the hard part. You'll stay there for as long as it takes. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, someone is striding around sorrowfully, bargaining for your release. Also up there, a shell of you moves through the days. People you know will see it and say, oh, there they are. I see them. But you are not really there. You are in the underworld. At some point, a small light that you hadn't seen before catches your eye. A music, your ear. A small, insistent life, your heart. You study it for some time, mere moments, some months, until, improbably and all at once, a heretofore unknowable knowingness makes itself known. Plainly, completely, like bread or a blade. There is something within you that can never be taken from you. Your essential nature, all the way in, is love. You begin to bargain for your release. You're not finished. There are things you still must do. You've been here long enough. The underworld keeper informs you that even if you're allowed to leave, you will always remain beholden. You know it's here. You can't unknow. What choice do you have but to promise to honor its lessons and to return if called? Terms are set. You will be allowed to come back up. Someone else will go down. You're right. It's not fair. But you see, it's a closed loop system. And although we didn't make the world and are just trying to live here, or maybe we did make the world, and this is how we designed it. It helps to understand how it works. Someone comes to inform you of your release. They return your clothes and escort you back up. You are shoved back out into the bright light of day. You are a mess. Your lips are chapped. There's a hollowness to your eyes, but you're here. You're here. You begin to walk along and eventually smile at the people you see. You buy new clothes. They're more humble, but they suit you better than before. You, who now help carry our collective soul's collective wisdom. You, who have been to the underworld. You, who have returned. I know that's a lot to take in. I will send a copy of that if you want it. And I do encourage you, if you really love it, I think you can seek this book out. It is actually a beautiful work of art. It's beautifully done. And I can send information on that too if you're interested. If you don't have my email, Joe has it. But I did just want to mention a few things. I mean, we could talk about this for hours probably. I thought that, the idea of someone carrying you there on a gurney made me think of Rumi, or maybe it was Hafez, I think. You can be carried in on a stretcher or dancing. Typically, I'm carried in on a stretcher. I have to be dying. The idea that the underworld keepers will take everything you brought with you. That's the hero's journey right there. You might think you're carrying your armor and you're just not going to be able to keep it. It can't be rushed. You'll stay there for as long as it takes. And your essential nature all the way in is love. To me, love is that divine spark that is our essential nature. And maybe every hero's journey is trying to come back to that divine spark, really, at the bottom of it. And the idea of, or maybe we did make this world and this is how we designed it. What that makes me think of is now, here, this. That everything is as it should be, regardless of my opinion of it. And, that story was the whole hero's journey, from beginning, middle, end. It's a cycle that continues all the time. And it makes me think of Joe's teaching about the compass. Of course, I couldn't find my notes on it, and he's on retreat, so I couldn't ask him about it. But also, John talked about, I think, the spirit wheel. And so there's these directions: east, which represents dawn and the spring and new beginnings; south, which would be midday, summertime, ripeness and the fullness; west, which is the setting sun, letting go, associated with fall and the unknown; and then north, which is midnight, winter, silence, death. And this wheel is always turning, and each of us is somewhere in this cycle. I know where I am, and it's nowhere near resolution. And I found a little peace, and I feel that that's okay. I'm going to stay here for as long as it takes, not rushing the process. And recently it's occurred to me that this silence, the midnight, the winter, can be restorative if I surrender and allow it to be. So no matter where you might find yourself on this cycle, I wonder if you can think about this from Joe's Bless This Mess talk. I wrote down, I heard him say, the world is perfect. The world is a mess. This situation is exactly what I need. So wherever you find yourself on the cycle, can you think about that? And if it makes you uncomfortable, good. It should. Makes me uncomfortable. And discomfort is where growth happens. The second poem that I have for you is from one of the songs I played earlier. It's called Weird Goodbyes by The National. I'll read it once and then I'll go through it again. It's a little bit shorter. Move forward now. There's nothing to do. Can't turn around. I can't follow you. Your coat's in my car. I guess you forgot. It's crazy the things we let go of. It finally hits me, a mile's drive. The sky is leaking. My windshield's crying. I'm feeling sacred. My soul is stripped. Radio's painful. The words are clipped. The grief, it gets me. The weird goodbyes. My car is creeping. I think it's dying. I'm pulling over until it heals. I'm on a shoulder of lemon fields. What was I even leaving for? I keep going back and forth. I think now I'm about to see. Didn't know how sad it would be. Memorize the bathwater, memorize the air. There'll come a time I'll want to know I was here. Names on the door frames, inches and ages, handprints in concrete at the softest stages. To me, that is a story of grief. I'll read it again and comment a little bit, but I'll also let you let it just soak in. Move forward now. There's nothing to do. Can't turn around. Can't follow you. Your coat's in my car. I guess you forgot. It's crazy the things we let go of. It finally hits me, a mile's drive. The sky is leaking. My windshield's crying. I'm feeling sacred. My soul is stripped. Radio's painful. The words are clipped. The grief, it gets me. The weird goodbyes. My car is creeping. I think it's dying. I'm pulling over until it heals. I'm on a shoulder of lemon fields. What was I even leaving for? I keep going back and forth. I think now I'm about to see. Didn't know how sad it would be. Memorize the bathwater. Memorize the air. There'll come a time I'll want to know I was here. Names on the door frames, inches and ages, handprints in concrete at the softest stages. Grief is sacred. It strips away everything, except for what's really real. I think this is what dying looks like. These are words I said as my father drifted away. These are words I've thought as our empire crumbles. We can try to memorize the bathwater, to memorize the air, but it's all impermanent. Everything changes. And would I want it to not change? That's the question. Would I want to maintain the same structures in our governing body that have been so oppressive and so broken anyway? Do I want to live forever? I don't think so. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And now, my story. On the day that my furry best friend crossed over, which I still can hardly talk about, although it gets better as I forgive myself for breaking my own heart. I took a long walk because walking was one of the few things I could do because I was so devastated as to be almost immobile. There's a large pond by my house, and as I walked alongside it, I caught some movement out of the corner of my eye, and I turned and I saw 3 gray herons launch themselves from the shoreline. And I stopped and I watched them. They flew across the pond and then around a bend out of my sight. And I felt like that was a message from beyond the veil. The number 3 is significant. In spirituality, it's a significant number. Well, it's significant for me too. And the fact that they disappeared, they were out of my sight, but they were not gone. In ancient Egypt, the heron is a symbol of creation, rebirth, and immortality. The number 3 for me meant all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, as Julian of Norwich would remind us. What I received from those herons was that there are flickers of hope, even in the darkest of times. And now today, I'm going to lead us into the meditation with our Abwoon chant. And before we stop the recording, I want to say that the Abwoon is also a wheel. We might remember Joe talking about this. The Ah is the fullness. BW, boo, not going to pronounce it right, is death. The O is the emptiness, and the N is birth. Abwoon, according to Joe's translation, is, O gracious one, your oceanic womb births infinite blessing in waves of shimmering darkness and light. The world is beautiful. The world is a mess. And this situation is exactly what I need.